All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Life Talks. Today I have Anthony Migliorino from peacefulfathers.com, and you can also find him on Twitter at Peaceful Fathers. Anthony, welcome for coming.
Michael, thanks for having me, brother. This is gonna be good. Looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
absolutely. I want to dive right into, you had a tweet saying, building inner peace is the greatest tool to becoming a good man and a great father. And I think to me, that's very powerful. As we talk a lot about what an alpha man is, in the past year, to me, that has resonated with me because it is not the big macho guys that are the strongest. It's those who have the ability to stay calm when things are crazy outside. And that to me is so much more powerful than flailing around and acting as if you're a tough guy. Maybe if you can go into, where that came from and, why that is the most important thing for being a man, a good father, a good husband, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's definitely a lot of what I talk about is reference to fatherhood. So from a father's perspective, where we see dads who let's say they get emotional, they get bent out of shape, or they get upset when their kids act a certain way, right? You're now in the child's frame, right? You're letting them control the environment. You're letting your kids dictate how you respond to their behaviors. So a lot of with finding inner peace is reflecting always within, right? Knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how your kid's acting, behaving, you're going to be able to control yourself. You're not going to let a child set the tone. And when you start doing that, your kids pick up on it, right? They see it. They see, hey, my dad's squared away. My dad, he's not yelling. He's not hitting me. He's not acting how he doesn't want me to act, right? He's showing me the example. So it's hard when we see our kids not being able to find inner peace because the truth is we're not there, right? How are our kids supposed to know how to emotionally regulate themselves when we're not showing them that example, when we're not being the man that we want them to follow? So it's a tough spot. And with your example of the alpha male, right? True strength is being able to confine those emotions, right? Being able to say, hey, I'm angry, I'm upset, but not letting it affect other people, especially people that you love, right? There's no real perceived threat. Now, if there's a threat, you act, right? You have to be confrontational. You have to be able to know when you have to protect yourself. But if you're going around and people have a different political opinion than you, and you have to lash out, you have to engage in a let's say a responsive way that is destructive to the relationship or destructive just to your character, then you have to start looking in, right? You have to start saying to yourself, is this the man that I want to be? Is this what I'm working for, right? Do I work out every day? Do I eat healthy? Do I read books to better myself as a man? Why am I letting little things bother me? So that is a lot of the questions I had to ask myself when I went down this journey, over a decade ago.
Yeah, for me, I think getting to that inner peace too. A big step for me recently was, joining like-minded men like yourself, because I could hit the gym. And we spoke last week, and one of the things that you had said that stuck out to me is, when your mindset of, oh, I need to work harder to make more money. Well, I was working harder and harder and harder. I was going to the gym harder and harder and harder, and I'm getting the same results, if not less. And for me, I had to, hey, evaluate where am I off? And I can't tell you how much more peace I've gotten in the past couple of weeks, doing some of these challenges that we've been doing, and really going into that deep heart shit. The stuff that just the blocks, the things that I learned from my parents that they screwed up, but they were doing the best that they could do with what they had, and really having real forgiveness through understanding, not an obligation. Oh, I ought to forgive my parents. No, I really do forgive my parents for any mistakes that they made and learn from them and speak to them like human beings, rather than as if they have all the answers. I mean, that to me has been like, an epiphany for me is not even epiphany. I've known this, but more deeply have known that everybody's just trying to figure it out too. It's like, and really learning from other people, learning from um, learning from other people's mistakes. And I think a part of it too is once you get to that, I think Zach had said this the other day, when the pain of regret, eventually the pain of regret gets bigger and heavier, and eventually you have to like just let go, than trying to hold that all in. But maybe if you could share, what are some tools that help you get more inner peace? Because I think that's what everybody wants at the end of the day, but we all go about it different ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, I think that's good, Michael, right? That everybody is on a similar path of improvement. And the problem is there's an overload of information, right? There's so many men you can talk to, guys going on their own path. We tend to misunderstand that movement is not progress, right? We always think we have to be busy. We always think we have to be doing something. When I see a man like that, I see a man who does not have inner peace, right? You have to be able to be content with being in your own head, with being able to relax, being able to understand your thoughts and ideas. And you mentioned forgiveness, and my ideas, my philosophy on this is if anybody's wronged me in my life or if anybody's mistreated me based on my experience, based on me being honest and saying, hey, I didn't like that, or I didn't think that was appropriate, whether it's my parents, my friends, to earn respect in my life, you have to apologize.
Sorry about a little hiccup. Had to change computers. Had a webcam problem. We'll go right back into it. Anthony was talking about the importance of forgiveness and his view on it.
Yeah, definitely. So with forgiveness, right, I make sure that anything that I'm doing, I live by it, right? If I'm going to say something, it is how I'm going to live my life as a man by those principles, but I'm also going to parent that way. So I would never want to wrong my kids, right? Do something bad to them that they did not like or they disapproved of, and then expect them to just forgive me, right? I wouldn't want them to hold on to that. It's not their responsibility. So same thing with anybody in my life. If my parents have wronged me, I'm going to be very clear and direct. I'm going to be assertive about, hey, listen, you did something to me and I did not approve, right? It was painful. It was hurtful. And I let them come to me as an apology. Otherwise, the way I look at it is you're not really working on the relationship, right? You're just trying to satisfy your own needs.
Yeah.
You're not, you don't really care about how somebody treats you. You just need to have some kind of closure to a bad situation. And I think it's important to recognize that because when we're looking for inner peace, we have to be really clear on what it is we accept in our life. Right? We're not going to be at peace if we say somebody's wronged me, but I'm going to forgive them. Right. And I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking about somebody who's a significant person in your life, right? Somebody that you cherish the relationship. So when I relate it to my kids, if there's ever a time that I've wronged my kids and they have the courage and the strength to say, hey, dad, you've did something to me and it hurt. Absolutely, I'm going to say, wow, that is courageous, right? That's brave. I respect that you were able to come and talk to me, that you had enough self-confidence to say, hey, I'm important enough. And then I would apologize. So I think a lot of times we almost have this misconception or this delusion that we just need to go around forgiving everybody and we'll be okay. But I don't see it that way at all, right? I really feel that if people are meaningful in your life, if people say they love you, they're going to hear what you have to say. They might not 100% accept it, but they're going to listen and they're going to acknowledge that they did something wrong. Otherwise, why would you really want to continue to build that relationship, right? Why are you giving them a piece of you if they don't care? So
Yeah.
that's a lesson I try to teach my kids.
Yeah. I agree. For me, I definitely, for me, I think forgiveness comes through understanding. And I think that, with certain people, um, as you're saying, like just mouthing the words is not enough. It has to be embodied. It has to be felt. Like and I think as you grow internally, when someone is truly, you actually hear their words and it actually has meaning, because I completely agree. Otherwise, if you're just using words just to, and I've done that too in my weaker moments, I say I'm sorry, or I say, I should be more disciplined, but I'm not more disciplined. And it's only until feeling that pain of, well, oh, I said I was going to be somewhere at a certain time and then I wasn't there, right? And then I would, because for me that would be a habit for a long time. Or for me when I was younger, I would be very disorganized. I would say the things, oh, I'll clean up my room, I'll do this, I'll do that, that I wouldn't do it. It wasn't until I felt that pain until I changed. And I think the same thing when people just mouth forgiveness. I think for me, that's why I say understanding is so important, because even when people say I'm sorry, but they don't mean it, that they're suffering too. Because if maybe they're not ready to really embody the I'm sorry and be ready for that. And I think with that, at least for me, I think in certain times, as for now, like disconnecting with certain people, not having resentment, right? Because everyone's on a different path at a different time. And that took me a long time to really digest too. It's like, no, you should be where I'm at my point in life. And it's like, no, that goes back into selfishness, which we were talking about, last week. There's different layers of selfishness. Selfishness isn't necessarily, oh, this is mine. No, it's I expect other people to be where I'm at. No, absolutely not. That would be a selfish thing. And I've learned to really let go. There's nothing wrong with letting go of certain relationships. I think the key thing is that I'm not at resentment in my heart, because now I'm holding that on wherever I'm at, and that only hurts me. So I've learned to really distance. And it's interesting it's almost like watching a movie. It's like, well, why aren't you? Well, I'm taking care of me first so I can be there for other people. But I agree
Yeah.
with the forgiveness thing, but maybe we can from there branch out to confrontation. You mentioned before political conversations,
Those are the
and I'm
best.
not going to go too deep into that specifically, because I've had a video taken down from YouTube, so I have to watch what I say. But how do you deal with confrontations politically, as far as, and maybe I'll speak on how I do it, and then how you do it. But for me, where I'm at is growing into is, this is what I believe. I'm not going to push it on other people. This is what I believe, and this is what I stand for. And you're welcome to believe and stand for what you stand for. And I'll listen to you, what your view is. But I also stand in my principles as well. I think the biggest problem that I have right now is and I hate to divide it into two, but I really see it that way, is there's people pushing their views on other people, and there's people who believe what they believe and they're not pushing it on other people. And I think one is, I'm big on David Hawkins. He has a power versus force chart. On a lower view, your force, I'm going to tell, I'm right, I'm going to push my view on you. Power to me is more, I know how little I know, and I know that on a certain level, you don't have to force anything that's right. There's truth and there's mistruth. And to me, I think some of the most beautiful political conversations I've had are with people who don't know and they're trying to figure it out. And some of the
Yeah.
worst are, I know and you're wrong, and this is why you need to trust this and trust that. And yeah, maybe if you could share, but I also I think there needs to be more people who stand for what they believe in calling people out in a loving manner, where you're not putting down them as a human being, but you're putting everybody on an equal playing field. You are my equal, and we're trying to
Yeah.
figure this out together.
No, that's a good point, because if you look at the current political climate, if you look at all these ideologies that people have and how we go about communication, how we go about conflict, a lot of that is directly correlated to how we're treated as children. So as kids, when we're angry, what happens? Our parents try to suppress it because it bothers them. So we get these behaviors we learn, like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't speak up. Maybe I shouldn't say what's on my mind because it might offend somebody. Right? My parents didn't approve of me openly expressing who I was. Whether that was, I'm tired, I'm crying, I don't want to go to bed right now. So these are all the layers that get stacked on us. So as we become older, it's really hard to deal with conflict. It's really hard to talk to people who have different opinions because we were conditioned to see it as a wrong, right? We were conditioned to see it as authority standpoint. You have to do what I say. You have to listen to me. You're weaker. You don't know as much. So I'm going to control you. So psychologically, when we get into a conversation with a person, right, our mind starts thinking, is it worth it to even talk to this person? Look at them, they're crazy. Or we start thinking, should I speak up, right? This person obviously needs some help. They don't know what they're talking about. My standpoint is to have some dignity, to always be strong enough to share your truth, to say what's on your mind. I mean, I'm around 160 plus good men all the time inside the fraternity of excellence. I never hold back, right? I always say what's on my mind, whether it's disagreement, whether it goes against the other 160 guys, right? There's things that I know that I've learned in my life. I'm not stubborn, right? If somebody disagrees with me, I need them to come at me from a mutual assertive standpoint, not aggressive, right? I need them to say, hey, bro, why do you think like that? What's going on in your mind? Right? Those are people who care about me, people who are calm enough or have that inner peace to be able to have a discussion. I think communication is important, right? It's a lot of what men are lacking in the modern day. We don't talk enough about what's going on inside of our heart, what's going on inside of our mind. We don't say, hey, man, I need help, or hey, man, I'm confused, right? I'm struggling in this area of my life. A lot of it's shame-based, right? We start to think before we even say, what is this man going to think of me? Is he going to judge me? Is he going to think I'm weak? Am I showing him that I'm vulnerable? Who cares? Right. And I don't mean that in a like,
No, I got you.
who gives a shit. I mean that like, be who
Yes,
you are,
it's funny
embrace
you
it.
bring that up because I was just thinking about that the other day. And this was like, it's like these inner revelations that just keep coming up as you go into that the dark night of the soul, is that I'm growing into a place personally where this is my story. And now I get to see who is living in judgment and who has, as we were talking, real forgiveness. And that's like so powerful because the ones who judge me, they're suffering too. It messes
Yeah.
with, like, it's so beautiful how it's like hidden in that. And it's like, I don't want to be around people who are going to judge my pain when I'm sharing that in confidence. And as I do share, like especially the group, you see shared pain is healed pain. And I think, but there was another part that Zach was speaking about this the other day, and it really stood out to me. I said, basically, I was having the problem of how do you figure out, am I bearing my own burden, and when can I bear my burden on other men, who can take that on for me? And he said it well, basically, in the sense that you got to bear your burden, your life most of the time. And I think, there's those windows where you really need help. That's where you share it. So basically taking on the burden of your life, and then on those moments where you need help, you reach out. Maybe we could talk about that. What to you, and I don't want to say like, is it 80-20? I'm going to take on 80% of my problems and 20, but in your experience, what would be that healthy ratio? Because for me, I definitely appreciate that, because I don't want to put my problems on other men.
Yeah.
But I also realize that, for many reasons, men and women are different. There's certain problems that I don't want to put on the people in my life who are, I want to be a beacon for them as well, So what for you is that balance, that healthy balance?
I mean, I would say that the first thing is to not be worried about coming off as needy, right? We need to get those emotions set aside. When you are in a relationship, or when you have people, let's say friends, who supposedly care about you, what a great way to test that friendship by saying, hey, I have a problem, right? There's something that I've been working on that I can't get past, right? I know it's my responsibility and I take ownership of it, but it's really kicking my butt, right? I can't get past it. I've been trying. I've read every book everybody's recommended to me. It's not soaking in, right? I've been through the process and it just keeps pushing me down. I need a rope thrown, right? So men in my circle, we understand this, right? This is a concept that throwing ropes, if a guy's down, you throw him a rope, but he has to pull himself up, right? You're not pulling him up. He has to be willing to listen, to do some work, and to really want to improve who he is. And I think a lot of men get stuck in that spot because what you were saying before, comparing yourself to other people, right? We've all been at the bottom. There's just some of us that don't quit. We don't give up, right? Some guys get stuck and then they start having these self-defeating beliefs, right? They talk to themselves in a really bad way, right? I'm a piece of shit. I can't do this. I'm not going to get
100%
past
up
it.
in there. As David Goggins says, I love his stuff. We're just like, I know all about that voice. That voice is,
Yeah, man, that little inner bitch that's telling you
yeah,
you can't do it. But I think that goes back to the inner peace, right? There's always an image we can show people what they want to see, right? We can always say, yeah, I'm going to go, I'm going to do it. But you have to be certain that's where you want to go. You have to acknowledge in yourself saying, hey, man, this is going to be tough, right? Maybe I am a piece of shit or I was a piece of shit, but I'm not going to stay there.
yeah,
I have to move forward. And a lot of guys have a hard time in that transition. One, because they're looking at everybody else crushing it and they're saying, oh, I want what he has. How does, and then the second thing is just those constant thoughts, those constant beliefs of what we tell ourselves. So if you think you're not worthy, why is another man going to say, hey, this guy's worth me putting in some time to him? So there is a balance there, right? We can be down, but it doesn't define who we are. And again, if we bring it to fatherhood, it's why I'm very specific with the language I use with my kids. I never tell them that they're stupid, they're lazy, right? And I don't tell them that, oh, you can do whatever you want,
yeah,
right? I tell them, hey, man, you are awesome. If you put in the work, if you love yourself, if you continually do things that drive you to become better, life is good, right?
yeah,
You're going to face some hardships, but ultimately, you're going to move through life at an advantage that most people do not have. And even the bigger part of that is when you do get stuck, you have dad who is not going to push you down more, who is not going to sugarcoat things, but is going to actually take the time, invest in you, and help you move through a hardship.
yeah. Well said. Well said. Just changing topics a little bit. Um, what is your view on religion and spiritual growth? And again, I'll start, sharing how I see it and how I've grown into it. Definitely, things that uh you've spoken about. There's this guilt and shame, I think, specifically with the Catholic Church and these establishments, these institutions of, trust this guy. For me, I think there's religion and religionism, and religion is this, it's our core. To me, I was raised Catholic. As I've gotten older, I really find a stronger faith with Christ and what that really means. And for me, to be born again, like people say they're born again. I've heard it throughout my life, and it's just like, or you get baptized, all right, you're good, you're a Christian, good to go, because some water splashed on your face, and I'd feel good for a week or something, and then it would just be like, okay, I still feel the same. The point that I'm at in my life right now is to be born again is the death of the ego, and that is a painful death. It's painful. It's saying, oh, all these illusions that I believed in aren't true, and it's layers, and it's a really painful, and it's an internal process. It's not going to come through, for me, certain blocks have been validation, which for me I learned from my mother. I was making sure make sure mommy was happy with me, and then I would seek that in relationships, and I see it in other men too, and I go, and I'd start to see it, and I'd start to speak it, but other people don't see it too, and I would just like, wow, it's this validation that's a problem. And the validation was the validation had to come from internal. The only way it comes internal, at least how I'm coming to see, is that going back to the first thing we were talking about, is that peace. When you're at peace, you don't need anything out there, and then you have love within. You don't need external validation, because if I get validation from someone outside of myself, then if I lose that person, I lost myself. So and that's a scary place to be in. But as I've grown into that, specifically, you know, the work that I've been doing with some of you gentlemen is, you know, it's going to the gym, it's being in solitude, it's listening to that inner bitch voice. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, what do you have to tell me? Where did you learn this? Not making that my enemy, because now I'm running on myself. I'm my own enemy. That's the worst thing I could do. And listening to me, that's real spiritual growth. It's being with the pain. It's the ability to endure the pain, not run from the pain, use the pain to grow. And I'd always hear this on like motivational videos, turning the negatives into positives, and realistically turning the negatives into positives, not just wishy-washy thinking. It's saying, oh, let me reframe this to a way that I actually believe that, you know. But to me, that's what the spiritual path is. The relationship with God is the most important thing, and it depends on what people mean by God. And I don't mean it as going to church every Sunday makes me a close relationship with God. It means that I'm in connection with myself and growing in that. You know, maybe what are your thoughts on, you know, religion, spirituality?
Oh man. All right. So I do not believe in any of the gods that have been previously made by man.
Awesome.
Just
Cool.
to throw
That's it.
that
I
out
love
there.
it. I love it.
You know, as far as spirituality and faith, a lot of my ideas, a lot of what I believe, you know, it's nothing constructed by man. I really view it as, right, if I need to know, it's going to come to me.
Yeah.
If it's bigger than me, if it's God, the universe, the solar system, one day I'll find out. And until that day comes, I'm not going to waste any time worrying about what is the truth, right? The only thing I could do right now is base my life on the truth that I know. And to me, that's being a good man, right? That's leading by example. That is, if there are things about myself, right? If there is a dark side that I have, I'm not going to say, oh, I have to think it away and I can be positive. I'm going to say, that's me. I'm going to own it. And I'm going to use it to my advantage. So let's say if I'm a bad reader, and instead of saying, oh, that's just who I am, right? I can't do anything about it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to say, oh, it's a part of me. It's something I have to work on. There's going to be some pain. And going back to Goggins, this is something he spoke about, right? Being dyslexic and learning how to push past that pain. It's the same thing, man. I didn't read a book till I was 30. And I haven't stopped since, right? 14 years later, that's all I do is read books. Whether, you know, whatever it's on, it doesn't matter. Mostly, I would say I read nonfiction, but I want to always be on the quest for truth, to learn knowledge, to especially self-knowledge, right? I think is one of the critical areas a lot of men lack, right? A lot of men don't really think about who they are, think about the principles they live by, think about what they enjoy, what they love. A lot of people waste time thinking about what others think of them. So to bring it back to a spiritual concept, my life is what I've created, right? I have a choice every day how to wake up and to decide what thoughts go in my mind, how I see my wife when I wake up and look at her in the morning, how I speak to my kids that morning. These are all choices I make consciously, right? I have to go out and I have to live it. I have to experience it. Everything that I see being thrown at me, that's man-made, right? Whether it's government, whether it's religion, I think it is there to control man, right? To destroy your soul. And not just my belief, but just the evidence that I've seen throughout time.
Sure.
Right. If I'm going to say I love somebody, I'm not going to try to destroy them. Right.
Yeah.
We have all these man-made religions, whether you're Muslim, Catholic, Christian. I mean, even Christians and Catholics go at it.
Yeah.
Right. Your God is, you know, you don't believe what I believe, so we can't be brothers. Right. There's a lot of men who are Christian that I have great relationships with. Right. Like Jerry from Man of Grit. He's a close personal friend of mine. He's a devout Christian. He runs Bible studies. we talk about God, we talk about religions, right? It doesn't make us not like each other.
Correct.
It actually makes us scratch our head and look at each other like, I can't believe we don't think the same
Yeah.
because of how connected we are. So to me, I try not to waste time in the abstract, right? I try to focus on truth, what I know, what I can prove, right? Like I don't need a fantasy, an explanation based on mythology about what happens, why I'm grounded to the earth.
Yeah.
I accept gravity. Got it. Good. Let's roll. Right. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
What is it? I think it's Bruce. Is it Bruce Lee? One of the guys. He says it's like pointing a finger to the moon.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the finger, or
Don't think, feel. Yeah.
or you miss all the heavenly glory. So
Exactly.
I agree with you in that sense. You focus on the Bible or church, you're losing the fact of what it's pointing to, and it could be a tool for somebody, and it may not. And people can come to God in different ways. It doesn't have to be through church. It can be through, for you have children, right? That connection, you feel that internal peace. That is your measure, what's in front of you. So
Yeah.
I could definitely appreciate that.
Well, I don't care what a man says he believes.
Yeah.
I base it on his actions. I don't care what you believe. If you come into my life, if you're on my wife and kids and you're a good man, you're humble, you're honest, you're respectful, you show pride in who you are, that's all I care about, right? You're courteous, you're willing to lend a hand, you're empathetic, you're a good man or a good woman. That's all I care about. I don't care what you say you believe. And even bring it to politics, right? If somebody's like, I'm a socialist,
Yeah.
and I hang out with you and you're really down to earth and you're like, man, I love being alive. Your kids are great, man. I appreciate the time with you. I don't care who you go and fight on Twitter with. That shit doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Right. Because like you said, everybody's going through pain. We're all trying to figure it out, right? We're all trying to process this beautiful journey called life. I'm more of a, hit me in the face with it, right? Show me who the fuck you are, and let's move on from there.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's a good place to end it right there. Honestly, that's it. Show us who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Anthony, I appreciate you coming on, man. And where again can people find you?
So you can find me at peacefulfathers.com. Parenting coaching. That's where my blog is. At Peaceful Fathers on all social media. And you can also find me and Zach Small, excuse me, from Zach Small from the Family Alpha at Oak and Rock Fatherhood. That is a great resource that we just started to put together, helping fathers become better men, become better husbands, and obviously better fathers.
Man, I love what you guys put out. I really mean that. It's awesome.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome helping other men become the strongest version of themselves.